Free Palestine!
שקט. טובה. עבודה טובה. ברוכים הבאים לישראל, אנחנו בעלי הבית. ככה צריך. עם ישראל חי. עם ישראל חי.
זיכוי, כל המטרה כאן זה לראות שאין אנשים בתהליך.
לא להתרגש מהצעקות שלהם, לא להתרגש.
Our stance towards Israel is firm on the one hand. Read my comments today regarding what Ben-Gvir has published. Because even when you do not agree with an action, you must still act to defend your citizens, and having a channel of dialogue with them allows you to act, to reassure their families, to safeguard their freedom. A channel that must be firm, that must not tolerate illegal actions, as was the case with the abduction of these citizens in international waters.
The Gaza Flotilla confrontation has now exploded into a major political and diplomatic headache for Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Questions are now being raised globally about Israel's values after Ben-Gvir's controversial video triggered massive international outrage. Flotilla detainees were seen tied up and publicly humiliated as the Israeli minister's shocking footage spread rapidly across social media. Benjamin Netanyahu now appears increasingly embarrassed by his own minister while Israel simultaneously struggles with mounting battlefield and diplomatic pressure. Deep cracks are beginning to emerge inside Netanyahu's cabinet after Ben-Gvir's explosive video ignited a huge political fallout. Even one of Trump's closest allies is now demanding an apology from Netanyahu while summoning Israel's ambassador for urgent explanations. Israel's hardline security minister has come under intense criticism after shocking video involving detained Flotilla activists surfaced online. Israel's national security minister released footage showing himself openly mocking activists who had been detained by Israeli authorities. Agitated detainees were also seen being dragged away moments after Ben-Gvir arrived at the detention facility near Ashdod port. Dozens of activists could reportedly be seen kneeling on the ground with their hands tied following their detention at the port. In the video, Ben-Gvir waved an Israeli flag toward the kneeling detainees while shouting, "We are the masters." The humiliation reportedly continued as detainees were allegedly forced to listen to Israel's national anthem during the incident. Among those detained was reportedly the sister of Ireland's president, Catherine Connolly, according to emerging reports. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu later condemned Ben-Gvir's handling of the controversial detention incident. Netanyahu stated that the conduct displayed in the video did not reflect Israel's accepted values or national norms. The Israeli Prime Minister also instructed authorities to deport the detained activists from the country as quickly as possible. Netanyahu said, and I quote, "Israel has every right to prevent provocative flotillas of Hamas terrorist supporters from entering our territorial waters and reaching Gaza." However, the way that Minister Ben-Gvir dealt with the flotilla activists is not in line with Israel's values and norms. "I have instructed the relevant authorities to deport the provocateurs as soon as possible." End quote. Ben-Gvir's controversial video has now reportedly triggered major divisions within Benjamin Netanyahu's own cabinet. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar accused Ben-Gvir of deliberately disgracing Israel through his conduct at Ashdod port. In a stunning public rebuke, Gideon Saar told Ben-Gvir directly, "You are not the face of Israel." Ben-Gvir, however, fired back at his cabinet colleague and defended his actions against the flotilla activists. Israel's foreign minister said, and I quote, "You knowingly caused harm to our state in this disgraceful display, and not for the first time. You have undone tremendous, professional, and successful efforts made by so many people, from IDF soldiers to foreign ministry staff and many others. No, you are not the face of Israel." End quote. The Israel security minister responded, and I quote, "There are those in the government who still haven't figured out how to behave toward supporters of terrorism." Israel's foreign minister is expected to understand that Israel has stopped being a pushover. "Anyone who comes to our territory to support terrorism and identify with Hamas will get slapped, and we won't turn the other cheek." End quote. NATO member Italy has strongly condemned the Israeli minister's video showing the treatment of detained flotilla activists. The Italian government reportedly summoned Israel's ambassador and demanded immediate explanations regarding the controversial footage. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government described Israel's treatment of the activists as completely unacceptable. Italy's leadership also demanded an official apology from Benjamin Netanyahu over the humiliating scenes shown in the video. Italy's Prime Minister said, and I quote, "The images of the Israeli Minister Ben-Gvir are unacceptable. It is inadmissible that these demonstrators, including many Italian citizens, are subjected to this treatment that violates human dignity." The Italian government is immediately taking, at the highest institutional levels, all necessary steps to secure the immediate release of the Italian citizens involved. Italy further demands an apology for the treatment reserved to these demonstrators and for the total contempt shown toward the explicit requests of the Italian government. For these reasons, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation will immediately summon the Israeli ambassador to request formal clarifications on what has occurred. End quote.
Our stance towards Israel is firm on the one hand. Read my comments today regarding what Ben-Gvir has published. On the other hand, however, we must continue to keep channels of communication open, because in recent days, when our citizens have found themselves in difficulty, including your colleague and some journalists, we need a channel for dialogue to ensure their safety. Because even when you do not agree with an action, you must still act to defend your citizens, and having a channel of dialogue with them allows you to act, to reassure their families, to safeguard their freedom. A channel that must be firm, that must not tolerate illegal actions, as was the case with the abduction of these citizens in international waters. But breaking relations, as some would like, would mean not even having the channel of dialogue to help your citizens. Is there a military agreement? Are there any military cooperation agreements? No, they have been suspended for the time being. There is no point in trying to analyze the meaning of the words. The facts are clear. We have not cut diplomatic ties, but we have closed military relations.
Meanwhile, Gaza-based Hamas also condemned Israel's detention and treatment of the Flotilla activists following the interception operation. The Iran-backed group described the incident as evidence of what it called the moral depravity of Israel's leadership. The controversy erupted after Turkish-led flotilla attempting to sail toward Gaza was intercepted and seized by Israeli forces. On May 18th, Israeli forces intercepted vessels linked to the global Sumud flotilla near the coast of Cyprus. Video footage captured Israeli personnel boarding the Turkish-led flotilla carrying activists attempting to sail toward Gaza. A live-stream broadcast by the global Sumud flotilla showed activists raising their hands moments before Israeli troops approached the vessels. Israeli soldiers wearing tactical gear then boarded the flotilla ships and abruptly cut off the live transmission. Following the Israeli operation, reports claimed the flotilla vessels lost communication and contact with one another at sea. The Turkish-led flotilla had reportedly departed from southern Turkey last week, with nearly 50 vessels headed toward Gaza. Israel dismissed the flotilla mission as a publicity exercise and warned activists to immediately turn their ships back toward Turkey. Ahead of the interception, Israel's foreign ministry strongly criticized the Gaza-bound convoy and its organizers. On May 18th, the Israeli foreign ministry accused two Turkish groups of carrying out what it described as a deliberate provocation. Israel alleged that the Turkish organizations were using the flotilla to support Hamas and undermine Trump's Gaza peace initiative. Israeli officials further claimed that the operation was intended to distract attention from Hamas's refusal to disarm in Gaza. Israel's foreign ministry said, and I quote, "Once again, a provocation for the sake of provocation, another so-called humanitarian aid flotilla, with no humanitarian aid. This time, two violent Turkish groups, Mavi Marmara and IHH, the latter designated as a terrorist organization, are part of the provocation. The purpose of this provocation is to serve Hamas, to divert attention from Hamas's refusal to disarm, and to obstruct progress on President Trump's peace plan. As the Board of Peace, which oversees humanitarian activities in Gaza under UNSC Resolution 2803, made clear, this flotilla is only about publicity. The Gaza Strip is flooded with aid. Since October 2025 alone, more than 1.58 million tons of humanitarian aid and thousands of tons of medical supplies have entered Gaza. Israel will not allow any breach of the lawful naval blockade on Gaza. Israel calls on all participants in this provocation to change course and turn back immediately." End quote. This latest confrontation comes shortly after Israel announced the killing of another senior Hamas leader inside the Gaza Strip.